$15 silver. That's right. That's what one of you said was the absolute bottom of where silver could go this year. We're going to discuss that possibility and where I think the bottom of silver will be as we explore. The absolute bottom of the barrel silver price is what we're talking about here now. As I record this video, we've seen a pretty good smackdown in silver's price. In fact, it is now well below $24 an ounce. Many of us thought this was at the beginning of a sort of a bull run, if you will, of silver's price through the end of the year. It hasn't happened yet. I still think it's a possibility. But I've also been talking about, as we go through these cycles, that I think there is a level of support that I don't think that it will break through a certain floor. But what is that floor? What is that support for silver? I thought it was going to fall below $21 an ounce, or just under $21 an ounce, right out there. I was wrong. It did not go that far. Let's take a look back through the course of a little bit of time here and discuss exactly what's happening with the silver price. It has been a fascinating ride that we've seen since the pandemic, when we saw it fall below $12 an ounce, $11 and change for a while there. The silver's price did take that hit there. But that was an anomaly. Indeed it was. Aside from that, it's been on a fairly uphill trend. In fact, the next bottom that we saw, the next lowest price, was in August, the beginning of August. In fact, just a year ago, silver was trading under $18 an ounce. Yeah, it's crazy. And of course, we've also seen in the past couple of years, the past 5 years, if we look back, adjusted for inflation, silver has been going down, adjusted for inflation. Over the past, 3 years, I'd say, it's gone down. In fact, really since August of 2020 is when we saw the top of the silver market in the past 3 years or so. But before the pandemic, we have seen prices higher. So there is some solidification of a bottom for silver. So I think that in a sense, the price that we saw in August of last year for silver was an interesting bottom. And I think that that is definitely something we won't see anytime soon. I think, in other words, within the next year, I believe we're seeing, at least through the end of this year, I don't think we're going to see it fall to that real or that nominal price of $17.92. And when I'm looking at macro trends here. So if we take it from that point of view, let's take a look at the next bottom for silver, shall we? Well, the next bottom for silver was in February of this year, and that was under $21 an ounce, just barely, $20.90. And I made a prediction that I thought we could see it fall to that level again through the summer doldrums. I was wrong so far. I now think that we're going to see a bottom probably not below $23 an ounce, based off of looking kind of the trend line for silver. And I use that term very loosely because I'm not a technical analyst. But if you go from the low that we saw back last year to where it's at now, it's been a rocky road, but it has been a rocky road to the upside. And so therefore, I think that the last dip that we saw, the last big dip that we saw after this just under $21 in February was back in June 1st, where it was under $23 an ounce, $22.76, according to the data compiled by Macro Trends. So what does this mean? Well, the silver market, though there are some big highs and lows, it's been, like I said, we've seen a lot of valleys and sawtoothing going on in the market. And if you look over the past months, over the past year or so, it has been up and down with these curves, kind of like the relief on this high relief 2.5 ounce American Liberty silver medal. But let's get down into the nitty gritty, shall we? Let's get into a little bit more detail as we look at the silver market. Because sometimes you got to really get in close to see what's going on with silver, and that's what we're going to do here with the prices. So I think that likely, given what we're seeing before, we're seeing higher lows, higher support as the silver's price falls. And so when we go back and look at it through the course of this trading period over the past couple of days, we've seen it fall, about 2.5% in one day here, after a midst of a drop of almost 2% the day before. Well, we saw a pretty big gain leading up to these recent drops. How low could it go? Well, I think that probably, likely, at least based off of what I'm seeing here, what we saw back in June, we're probably going to see a higher low yet again. And I think this kind of stands to my point that I think that, and maybe a technical analyst will be able to see what's going on there, is that essentially $23 is probably the next baseline or the next support level for silver as we head into the summer and finish out the summer. Now, obviously, all bets are off, and we kind of take a look through here, and there's been times when we've seen a steady downward movement. In fact, if you go back to March of 2022, it was $25.13. And then by August, it was down to under $18 an ounce. So we could see another one of those trend lines happen as well again. But I think there's a lot things happening that are different now. There's much more talk now of a recession and the sunset of the Federal Reserve raising rates. I think likely if we do have one more rate hike this year, I'd be surprised. And I don't think that it's going to be enough to really drive prices back below 23 in general, because I think before September comes, when that meeting comes into play, I think you're going to start to see more and more support for higher prices and indicators in the marketplace that tells us that we are in for a economic hardship, and the Fed will have run out of its tools to try to bring inflation in line, and we could still see inflation above 2%. In other words, we may see inflation riding out at about 2.5 to 2.8%, and the Fed may have to be happy with that. However, again, notwithstanding, you have to take into account the chefs that cook the books club, and understand how inflation is measured now compared to what it was when it was this high or even more 40 years ago. Much different. And so with that in mind, I think that's why I believe strongly that we're going to have higher lows, and support for silver is strong. And I think that even though we may see the price kind of be stagnant in terms of the overall average throughout the rest of the summer, there's going to be volatility that's going to come into play here that's going to see the price rise. And I think we might see that window broaden a bit. But I think still that $23 is probably the absolute bottom for silver through the rest of the year, in my view. Now, you may come back a couple of months from now, and I could be completely wrong, and we might see $21 silver or $20 silver again. I would be shocked and surprised to see that happen. But you can come back here to this video, because I keep all of my videos up, including all of my mistakes. And you can come back and say how wrong I was, and that's okay, because I don't take myself too seriously. I do feel like I have some insight into the markets just based off of how much I watch them, but I've been known to be wrong. And the thing about this kind of analysis is that, it's a thought exercise. Really, in general, it's just a thought exercise on what can come into play. What do we have going for us right now? Well, we have inflation that's still here. It's not as much bad as it was before, but it is still around. You've got a credit rating that's dropped. You've got other factors, including, too, by the way, not many people are talking about, but I was reminded again by Rocky Superstar that we have a silver mine, a big silver mine that has a strike, and so they're not producing nearly as much silver. So that could have an effect on the market as well, too. The supply chain, it's all related to the supply chain. Yellow trucking, out of business, layoffs here and there. All these non-farm payroll job numbers coming in, are telling us good things, at least according to the quote official numbers, where you're seeing all other companies out there, including J.P. Morgan, are laying people off. Tell me something that is not amiss there. Something's going on. So I think that there's a lot of factors that are coming into play that very well could bode well for silver in terms of its supply and push against it in terms of recessionary things, which actually would be bad for silver's price. In other words, silver's price could go down because of something like that, especially recessionary situations and supply chain issues. That's one of the reasons why silver didn't really break out a whole lot after the pandemic. It rose because of fears and the like, and it tagged along with gold when it reached record highs. In fact, adjusted for inflation now, silver by August of 2020 was above $33 an ounce. And so, adjusted for inflation, I still think we're a little bit of a ways off from that. But I'm hanging true stubbornly to my prediction by the end of the year, silver will hit $28 an ounce. Let's see if I'm right. I've constantly reminded folks about my predictions in these videos as I make them at the beginning of the year, because I want to hold myself accountable to it, and I want you to hold me accountable to it, because one thing I also say with regards to that is to never, ever make any decisions about buying based off of what I say. And so I want to point out when I'm wrong just as much as I would if I'm right. So keep that in mind too. It's a thought exercise. It's for fun, entertainment purposes only, but also educational purposes, because there's a lot going on in the markets that have an effect on the price of silver. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are below. I hope you don't mind looking at this scary looking creature on this thing. I'm just going to let it just fall right here as I say a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, and I want to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and